Good morning to all you Broncos fans out there. Bear with me just a moment. I am here by myself today, so I need to bring in all the other streams and get things going. So we'll get started as soon as I can do that. So hold tight. And we are going to be fully live. And here we are. Good morning. Welcome to Legends of Mile High. I'm Thomas Hall. And this is a show, as always, that brings you history and current events. And today, I'm going to talk a little bit about training camp because I'm going to do a series every Friday morning leading up to training camp, talking about different things, including what to watch for when you're out there at training camp. But today I'm going to talk about a big question that needs to be answered, right away, because if they don't answer it, they're going to need to go look for a veteran. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. And stay tuned till the end because I've got a little story about a connection between a Broncos Ring of Famer and a Hall of Fame player from a bitter rival. So stick around and we'll get into that. And I just want to say, I hope all the Denver area residents that were impacted by the tornado are all safe and healthy and not too much damage occurred. So our thoughts are with you. So hopefully that disaster is not as bad as it looks like on all of the news footage and things like that. So, but our thoughts are with you. So, if you need anything, hopefully, we can help somehow. I don't know, but anyway. So, thank you for joining this morning. Like I said, we're going to be discussing a little training camp primer. But before that, I'm just going to say hi to a couple folks in the chat this morning. We got Seth here saying, "Hey guys." Hey Seth, how you doing this morning? I'm glad that you can join. I know it's early, and it's not fun to get up early in the morning just to catch a show, but I appreciate when you do. So thank you very much. Like I said, I'm here without anybody checking out the chat for me, so bear with me with me because it's going to take me a little while to grab all of the different chats and discussions and things like that. So. We got Kevin Gray coming in this morning saying, "Morning, Thomas Scott. Big Mile High salute to Broncos country. Denver Broncos for life. Mile High Huddle for life." Yeah, it's funny. Thank you for being here, Kevin. I appreciate it. I love the Mile High salute, and I hope they bring it back. I know some players have brought it back here and there, but it's not as done as often as I would like. I thought it was a great way to celebrate a touchdown. It was fun and not too flashy, but that was my opinion on it. And I hope they do bring it back. So again, bear with me. I'm trying to get all the stuff going here on this morning. And as I do that, get everybody connected. I'm gonna get going. All right. And then we've got Jeremy Sean coming in this morning. Thank you for being here this morning. I'm back in the studio finally, which is great. Appreciate you being here, Jeremy. As always, like to see you in here in the morning. So Jeremy says, "Morning, Thomas. With any coaching change, you can expect to hear positives about the new leader. But the things this team is saying about Payton remind me of the Shanahan hire in 95. Yeah, I mean, they are definitely singing his praises, but this time it's a little different because they were singing the other coaches' praises too for the most part, and there was nothing really to back it up. They were first-time head coaches. There was some quarterbacking issues. There were other things that were going on, but with Sean Payton, it's an experienced coach who has a track record of winning, turning around the offenses, turning around teams, getting to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl. This is there's a reason to be excited, right? And there was a reason to be excited when Shanahan came too. I know that he had been a head coach before with the hated Raiders, of course, but that failure was not due to his fault as much as the meddling of Al Davis. I've talked about that before. He was supposedly brought in to be innovative and change the way they did things, and then Al Davis didn't let that happen so much, and couldn't bring in his own coaches and things like that. So it was exciting because Shanahan had a track record with Denver of getting John Elway to play well, and going to San Francisco and learning that championship mentality, and then coming back. It was it was a very exciting time, and it turned out to be, back-to-back Super Bowl championships and a long run, the best, most successful coach in Broncos history, really. So, but the other thing that I would like to point out about that season is the 2 seasons before, Jim Fassel came in, right, as the offensive coordinator under Wade Phillips, and that really changed John Elway, right? It put him in an offense that fit him. He had his best season of his career, really. I know he won the MVP in '87, but that '93 season, statistically speaking, was a better season. And then that carried on through Shanahan. So Shanahan made definitely some tweaks, including his own blocking scheme, which was awesome. But that that time, those 2 years before, kind of helped Elway and then transitioned him into the Shanahan offense a little better. In my opinion, that's how I felt, and it was, it was good to see. So I don't know how that's going to work with Russell Wilson, going from Hackett to Payton. That's the big question. But I've got an article coming out that has that comparison between what Peyton's doing in his first year in Denver and what he did his first year in New Orleans, and there's some pretty good similarities. So look for that; that'll be good. So thanks for coming in this morning, Jeremy, and Keith Brugman coming in saying good morning, Thomas. Thank you, Keith, for being here as always. Appreciate it. Appreciate your getting up in the morning to be here, and we've got Gil Whiteley in the house. All right, Gil, thank you so much. I appreciate you talking to me the other day, and Gil's going to be on the show coming up, so it's going to be great. Thanks for coming in. A great media member and great knowledge of the past Broncos for sure. Been around for a long time and knows a lot of them. So he says, "I'm glad to join. I'm buying into Peyton's old school tactics." Yeah, me too. It's refreshing because football is, of all the changes and everything that's happened with the game of professional football, it still comes down to the fundamentals, right? The fundamentals rule in the end, and you can create a bunch of X's and O's, but if your team's not ready to execute on the field, then it's not going to work. So, yeah, I am too, and I'm getting very excited, and I'm trying not to. I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic, but I am definitely keep getting more and more excited. And I think that excitement's going to come out as I go to training camp and start to watch, because I think it's going to be a lot different than Nathaniel Hackett's training camp last year. It's already seems to be different, and I'm just going to assume up front that the practice is going to be much crisper. It's going to be more of a teaching practice. It's going to be, a better, more physical type practices as much as they can. And I think that's going to prepare the team for a better season. And of course, they're going to play in preseason and things like that. But I just want to see the difference between how Payton ran it and Hackett ran it, because I think it's going to be a stark difference. And Sean, thank you for coming back in here saying, "In Payton, I trust." I think everybody is kind of on that, kind of on that bandwagon, right? And not really bandwagon, but people seem to trust what Sean Payton is doing. But I mean, what's not to trust, right? He's already experienced and done what he can. The big question is, can he get the most out of Russell Wilson? And we're not going to see that until the games really start. But I mean, if you look at what Sean Payton did with Drew Brees, and I'm not saying that he's going to do that specific thing with Russell Wilson, but he looked at what Drew Brees did best. He saw that Drew Brees was a high volume, accurate passer, and he turned him into, he changed the offense, made the offense to fit his skills. And then he also did different things with Teddy Bridgewater and, Jameis Winston. So I think he's going to tailor the offense to Russell Wilson strengths, with his own flair, of course. But it's not going to be the situation where Hackett and Wilson created an offense that they thought they wanted. It's going to be an offense that should help Russell Wilson, and I'm looking forward to it. I think he's going to have a bounce back season. So here's the big question that I am interested in seeing answered in training camp, and that has to do with the defensive line. I think the defensive line is pretty stout, really. I think bringing in Zach Allen to replace Draymond Jones was I liked Draymond Jones. I thought he's going to, kind of turn into, this was going to be his year that he kind of breaks out. But Zach Wilson's in the same situation, right? He's similar age. He's an up and comer. He's gonna really come into his prime. So they got him at a perfect time, in my opinion. This is when defensive linemen, that the age that they start to really break out. So I'm excited about that. And I love DJ Jones. I think he was a great pickup. The problem was they lost their other starter on the other side, and I think they can fill that okay with Mike Purcell. But from my opinion, when I watch defensive linemen, it's the rotation. A good rotation really keeps those starters a little fresh and really helps them to be better. And that's where I think the big question needs to be answered. Right? Is how is that rotation going to kind of fill out? And we're going to see it in training camp. We're going to see what happens in training camp. And the reason why I have questions about it is that I know they brought in an experienced guy in Tyler Lancaster, right? Tyler Lancaster was a pretty solid rotation piece for the Green Bay Packers for a few years since 2018. But then he missed all of 2022 with an injury. So I'm interested to see if he can bounce back from that injury and just how effective he's going to be this year. And if he is really effective, that's going to make me feel a lot better about that rotation. But other than that, they're relying on two second-year players who did play a little bit last year, but they weren't coming in as these impact players. They needed growth, right? And that's Wazirike and Henningsen. And they both played pretty good amount of time due to injuries, but they really, they didn't get a ton of defensive snaps. I think Henningsen had 280 something, and Wazirike was under 200 snaps on defense. So they did get some experience, but to rely on two kind of unknowns as that other rotational pieces, it's a bit of a question mark for me. And like I said, the if you don't have a good rotation, you're going to see a drop off. And if you have to play your starters a lot more because of that drop off, that can wear them out. So I'm looking forward to training camp to see what kind of progress those two young guys have made. And that's going to be telling to me whether or not I'm comfortable with the defensive line and whether Sean Payton's comfortable with the defensive line, right? If they don't make that leap, if you don't see this kind of progression that they should have, I think you're going to see Sean Payton and George Payton going out and finding a veteran out there to kind of fill in that rotation within a short time in training camp. I think by preseason, they'll be looking for somebody else. But if they're happy with who they have and if that progression has made that leap that they are hoping, then I think you're not going to see that happen. So that's why I think this is one of the biggest questions that you're going to see in training camp that has to be answered right away. I don't think Sean Payton's going to sit on his hands and just hope that they kind of grow, through the season. I don't think he wants that, and I don't think anybody wants that for the defensive line. We got Keith Bregman coming back in saying, what I'm interested to see at training camp is the tight end rotation opposite the D line. There are options. Yeah, I think they have a solid tight end core. I like Dulcich. I think he really showed as a rookie something more than I expected. Tight ends don't always come in and make an impact as a rookie. And, that first game back, he was making an impact. And I think he's only going to grow as long as he can stay healthy. But they went out and got Trotman, an experienced tight end who is experienced in Sean Payton's offense. He may not be a dynamic player, but he's a solid tight end. And then I also like Manhertz. I think Manhertz is going to fill out that tight end rotation well as a great blocker and catch the ball once in a while. He's not shown that he has caught the ball a ton, but I like their tight end group. I think that's going to come down to those three. I don't know if Alberto is going to stick around, and maybe he surprises everybody in camp and they keep him around, but he's kind of the odd man out from my perspective. And you're right. It's going to be interesting to see that rotation, see how it shakes out, but I'm not worried about it. Right. I'm more worried about the D-line rotation. So, and I was worried about the offensive line rotation, but they've started to fill that in with some experience. So, that's where I'm kind of headed with the D-line. If they did that with the offensive line, are they going to be able to do it with the defensive line and not have to rely on hope that these second-year guys jump up. And we got Cristiano Roden coming in saying, "Hey, good morning, Thomas of Broncos country. Happy to catch you live today. Always watch it post fact." Yeah, well, that's fine too. The difference being for me is, if you're live, you can ask me some questions and we can have a discussion, which is, that's always the fun part for me, is the back and forth. Being here, doing the show solo, you don't get that back and forth with your co-host. So yeah, thank you for being here this morning. Appreciate it. And Gil's coming back in saying it's Red Shirt Friday. That's not a red shirt. Red stands for remember everyone deployed. Sorry, Gil, I forgot. I actually don't think I have a red polo or whatnot, but it's a good thing. Remember everyone deployed, and Gil's really good about putting that out to remind everybody about our servicemen and women out there. So yeah, thank you for that reminder. And sorry, I got a blue shirt on today. All right, we got the legend coming in as always. Michael Ronquillo coming in to say, "Good morning, Thomas, on Legends of Mile High. Go Broncos and buck 'em." Well, thank you, Michael, for being here. Really appreciate you being here this morning. And thank you as always for supporting all the Mile High Huddle shows. You like I said, you're a legend around here, and we appreciate that. Keith coming in with Facebook stars, so thank you for the support, Keith. We definitely appreciate that. So Keith says, "What are your biggest names on the bubble heading into training camp?" Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, there's some wide receivers that are definitely going to be on the bubble. I mean, I think KJ Hamler's one that pops out immediately to me, right? Is one that's on the bubble. I think you got a couple other players that can do what he does, and that he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And I like KJ Hamler, but you see him, I think he even senses it, right? There was a report out that he's now living with Tim Patrick. So I mean, if you kind of feel unstable in your your employment, you're not gonna go sign a lease and to stick around for a year if you think that there's a possibility that you might be traded or whatever. So KJ Hamler comes to mind to me right away. And then I think I'm not really concerned about some of the starters, but Kareem Jackson is someone they brought back in, but they have an out, right? So if some of those young safeties really come up, you might see Kareem Jackson not making the team. It's hard to say that, and really believe it. But really, I mean, they can get out of that contract pretty easy. They brought him back on a 1-year deal, and the dead money is like 30,000 or something. It's nothing. So that's a possibility, but it's one of those safety guys that is going to be gone. That one of the young guys most likely, and that's a disappointment to me, right? Because they're going to be battling it out. Some two drafted rookies, recent, and then PJ Locke, Caden Stearns. One of those guys are going to be the odd man out. And then the other piece. I'm going to give you a few names, but you got to look for the inside linebacker crew, right? You got Drew Sanders coming in, who I think is a dynamic player, is going to be taking some playing time. Jonas Griffith was supposed to be the starter last year, was injured. You had Alex Singleton has jumped him on the depth chart for sure. And you got Josie Jewell. I mean, Sternad's probably gone, but if they want to keep somebody around that's more special teams oriented and move one of those guys in the inside linebacker crew, because Drew Sanders really pops and takes the kind of a bigger role, you might see somebody gone from there that you don't expect. But from the way I see it, I look across the Broncos starters, and I think they're pretty solid for the most part. There's some elite guys, but at least they're solid. And I'm more worried about that rotation and the depth. And from what we saw last year, once injuries happened, their play really fell off. And they were a mess to begin with. But, you look at that defense, they were playing as a top 3 defense. And by the time the season was over, they were, less than top 10. So I'm more worried about those rotational pieces that are going to come in and back up and due to injury. But those are my names. I mean, KJ Hamler pops up to me first and foremost. I like the guy, but I think he's the odd man out. So I think he's going to be the first one that you kind of see hitting the road. All right. We've got Peter Middleton coming in to say Jewell deserves to stay on the team, in my opinion. Yeah, Josie Jewell to me is, he's one of those hardworking guys that I love his instincts. I love the way he can see the field. He's not an athletic guy, but his game is intelligence and instincts. And when he's in there, he can really command the defense and be the leader on that defense. He's just been struggling with injuries the last couple of years, so. Uh, I hope he sticks around. I hope to see him and Singleton, racking up tackles this season because they're both capable of doing that. I just got my fingers crossed that he stays healthy. Thank you for coming in there, uh, Peter, with that comment. I've always loved Jewel, right? I'm an old school guy, so I love those old middle linebackers that have those great instincts and can rack up the tackles. Uh, the issue that I do have for the most part with the linebacking crew isn't that they can't make tackles, and they don't make tackles way down the field. It's they don't have those impact plays. And Singleton, in my mind, he racks up the tackles, but he needs to get more impact plays, more tackles for a loss, more interceptions or forced fumbles, things like that. That's where they need to improve. And I think that's when you look at Drew Sanders, that he might be that more impact player type that they really like for the inside linebacker group. But I love his versatility. So that's first and foremost where he comes in. And we got Gil coming back in to say something about Josie Jewell, and this is so true. Josie has a great nose for the ball, so his first step gets him in position. Yeah, for sure. And the thing about that Carl Mecklenburg always says is he always took the first step in the right direction before anybody else, and that's what overcame his lack of athleticism. Which I think I think Carl Mecklenburg sells himself short a little bit. He may not have been the fastest guy, but he was strong and athletic. And when he told me that he could clean and jerk like 475 pounds or something like that, I was like amazed. So yeah, but that's so true. People that can't, linebackers or anybody for that matter, who has that quick read and react type mentality and can be there before anybody else. They've got a head start on anybody. And if you can add a little bit of speed and athleticism to that, that's all the better. But when I'm looking at linebackers, my first thing that I ever look for is how good are their instincts? Are they in the right position quicker than anybody else? And then you can look at, okay, are they fast? Their change of direction is, that's more important to me than straight line speed. So when I'm looking at linebackers coming out of college, if they don't have instincts, then I wouldn't touch them unless it's late and maybe for a special teams role. But yeah, instincts are something that you kind of are born with. I know you can watch film and you can kind of get yourself in the right position, but that read and react kind of it's like something more innate in your mind. And we got Keith Brugman coming in saying, does the linebacker play get better with better play from the D line you were concerned about? Yeah, I mean, obviously, if the D line can keep the offensive line occupied, right? If they can command double teams and they can't, they're not letting those, offensive linemen get to the second level, it's going to help for sure. And I'm pretty happy with the starters on the defensive line. I think I really like DJ Jones, and I think Zach Allen is maybe a better run defender than Draymond Jones. And I know Draymond Jones, people are kind of have a bad taste in their mouth because he left, but I like the DJ Jones or Draymond Jones a lot. I just Zach Allen might be better, so I think you're going to see a little bit better. A little bit better play from the linebackers because they occupy those blockers a little better with Mike Purcell, who's a good run stuffer, and he's stout at the point of attack. DJ Jones and Zach Allen being a little better at the run game. So I'm more concerned with the health of the inside linebacker crew, only because they've struggled with it. Jonas Griffith, was gone for most of the year. Josie Jewell missed almost the entire year the year before, and he struggled with injuries. So that's what I'm more concerned about. I'm not as concerned about their ability to play the run. That if they're healthy, I think they're going to be a solid run stopping crew. All right. I'm going to grab another one here from Peter Middleton saying, the inside linebackers are a strength that's only grown through the draft. Why change it? Yeah. Well, the only reason I would say, Peter, is if you like some of the younger guys, you can let some of the older guys maybe walk, right? I don't think they will. They're not. There's not like a money issue, I don't think. But if Josie Jewell is going to have a diminished role because some of the young guys are playing better, then maybe give him a shot somewhere else. That's the only thing that I would say. But I don't see that happening this year. Josie Jewell is going to be an unrestricted free agent, I believe, after the season. So you may not see him come back. He may be going somewhere else if Drew Sanders is what we all kind of think he is, right? I like Drew Sanders a lot, and I think so does the team. So if he kind of steps up and is really pretty good in his rookie year, you might see him kind of take a bigger role and one of the veterans pushed out. And that would be Jewell. They may not want to re-sign him. And Gil Whiteley's coming back in now, saying Mech played all 7 positions in the box, so many games unblockable. Yeah, he was fun to watch, man. He was one of my favorites when I was young. And just, at 240 pounds playing nose tackle is incredible. I mean, just think about that. 240 pounds. I mean, it was the 80s and early 90s. These offensive linemen were getting bigger and bigger. It wasn't like they were 260 or 250 pounds. And it was his strength that he was so strong that he was able to do that. But yeah, I mean, go watch some of his games if you didn't see it. There's plenty of them on YouTube. He was an amazing player. All right, Michael Ronquillo's coming back in saying, great show today, Thomas, on Legends of Mile High, go Broncos. And Buckin coming in with some massive Facebook stars. So I appreciate that support. Thank you so much, Michael. And that's a good way to kind of step into the next portion of the show, which is the Mile High Legends. So I'm going to wrap the show up with that. So thank you, Michael, for coming in and kind of wrapping up the show a little bit as we go into that. So as always, a Mile High Legend is just a story that I've researched that I found interesting, and I hope you find it interesting as well. Try to do a little bit of a Paul Harvey kind of theme if I can, kind of put the punchline at the end. And so that's fun for me. So I'm going to jump into that right now to kind of end the show. So the Broncos and the Raiders, right, have had a heated rivalry that has dated back to their origins when they first entered the American Football League back in 1960. And that rivalry is steeped in history, but it's also rich in connections between the team. I mean, from Elway, from that trade being nixed that they had set up by the commissioner to the steal in a trade by Rich Jackson. Those are connections that the Raiders, some of the most famous ones that I think of between the Raiders and the Broncos. But one of those connections includes a bit of a little known story between a Hall of Fame Raiders player and a Ring of Famer for the Broncos, Billy Thompson. Now, Billy Thompson is one of the greatest defensive backs to ever suit up for the Broncos. Part of the legendary Orange Crush defense, Thompson was the bona fide playmaker. And he was responsible for 20% of the takeaways for that defense in that historic 1977 season, and totaled 61 takeaways for his career, and 40 of those being interceptions. And his 4 scoop and score fumble returns for a TD for his career was the most by any player in NFL history. And that record held until 1998. And that was 2 decades later after he retired almost. And Thompson started 179 games for the Broncos, including 134 straight. And he received 2 All-Pro awards and 3 Pro Bowl invites during a time, or for a franchise during a time that they weren't recognized very often. So it's a pretty good recognition for Billy Thompson. And then he was obviously immortalized when the Broncos put him in the Ring of Fame in 1987. And I would say there's an argument for his enshrinement into Canton as well. But prior to being drafted by the Broncos, Thompson played college football at Maryland State, which later changed its name to University of Maryland Eastern Shore. And how he got there was the interesting part. So Thompson was a star high school star in football in high school at quarterback, not cornerback, quarterback. And he was prepared to join the Wake Forest football team because they were going to offer him a scholarship. And Wake Forest back then didn't have a very good football team. They had only 2 winning seasons of the 12 prior to the 1965 season, which is when Thompson was going to join the team. And as fate would have it, he didn't join the Wake Forest football team. Thompson played in a high school all-star game in Columbia, South Carolina, but as a defensive back, not a quarterback. And after the game, Art Shell walked into the locker room and asked to talk to him. Thompson had no idea who he was, but Shell said that he played for Maryland State and that they were all there and watching him, and they really liked him. And he wanted to take him out to dinner, and he said that the coach couldn't do it because it would be breaking the rules. But as a player, he was able to do it. So they went out to dinner that evening, and Shell convinced Thompson that Maryland State was the right choice. And Maryland State at the time was an incredible football team. Prior to 1965, they had 19 straight seasons at 500 or better. And several players had been drafted to play in the NFL. So Thompson went on to start that college, leading him to be drafted in the 3rd round by the Broncos. And which is interesting because Art Shell was drafted in the 3rd round the year prior by the Raiders. And had Thompson went to Wake Forest, would he have made his way to the NFL or to the Orange and Blue for that matter? If that future Hall of Famer, Art Shell, had not intervened, would the Orange Crush defense have gotten its playmaker? We'll never know, but it is the one connection between the Broncos and their hated rival I am, for one, glad happened. And that is your Mile High legend. Thank you for joining, and have a great day, Broncos fans.